Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Time to Man Up podcast. We are glad that you have joined us and we are excited. I was hoping this week that my daughter would be with us so that we could look at the importance of dads spending time with their daughters. But due to scheduling conflicts, she was not able to be part of this. So next week, we've got that on the schedule. And we will have her with us for the next episode as we look at that importance of dads and daughters and that special time that they can spend together. Last week, we looked at the importance of dating our wives, even when life gets busy, when the kids come, when just life is going crazy. Sometimes you just have to push pause so that you and your wife can go out, do something fun together, and just get away from just the normal things of life and spend some time to regroup, to talk. And those are great opportunities, men, and we need to initiate those. And as I told you last week, I'm not an all-star in that area. We all need to do better wherever we are, but there are some guys that are pretty amazing at it, and kudos to them. Watch those men, learn from those men. So in the gap of talking about the importance of dating our wives and then looking at that dad-daughter relationship, I just didn't want to like randomly put something into this middle for this episode. And so this is an area that has always been something for me in raising my kids, in helping other men, helping to equip them to be the fathers that God would want them to be, and even the husbands, because we could take this and translate it into our marriage. And that is the importance of this. When we give our time, and we've heard the statement that it's more important to give quality time than quantity time, because there are men that give their family a lot of time, but it's really not quality. So what we have to do is, men, we need to make the most of every minute that we have to give to our kids by making that quality time. And here is one of the biggest ways that we can do it. One of the biggest ways that we can give that quality time is by being willing to do what our children like to do. Often we just do the things that we like to do and we bring the kids along with that. But it is great to be able to say, what would you like to do? And I've got some things that I would say about it, but I do want to wait until next week when my daughter is on the podcast with us. But we need to make sure that we are doing the things that our kids like to do. And I'll just use my boys as an example. I feel like I've probably pitched about 1 billion pitches. Now, I know I'm probably not to 1 billion, but I might be close to it, because they were always wanting to go out and have me pitch to them so they could hit the ball. And we played a lot of wiffle ball. I pitched a lot of pitches. And again, I grew up playing wiffle ball, right? The fairgrounds were in our backyard. And I don't know about you, but we dug a hole under the fence because the top had barbed wire, and we would either crawl over it or go under it. But we would go out into the field of the fairgrounds behind us, and we would mow a baseball field. And I'm sure that some of you guys did that same thing, and we would play wiffle ball hours and hours and hours. And then my dad managed a pool for 10 years, and we played wiffle ball every summer for hours and hours. And then when I got in high school, my friends and I, at one of our friends' home, we built a wiffle ball field. And it was simple. It was like a poles with a kite string for the home run fence. I remember one time trucking to catch a ball, and the kite string that we had stretched across, it just raked me across the face when I ran into it. It left a pretty good mark for a while there, but you just did whatever you could do to get out. I mean, we kept stats and everything. I remember it would always come time for me to go to our church camp up in Ohio, And I was always disgruntled. I enjoyed my time at church camp, but I was disgruntled that I was going to miss a week of wiffle ball and that people were going to catch me in the stats, right? And so when I would go away, I'd be like, oh man, they're playing wiffle ball today. But those were things that you just did. They were fun. And so with my boys, they loved to do that. And so I would do that with them. But I also had to, I think the game might have been Pretty Princess, but where you had to get all dolled up and by winning certain things that a princess would wear. That created some pretty funny game nights with myself and with the boys playing that. But that was something that my daughter enjoyed to do. There was a time, and you sports fans will love this. So we lived up in Ypsilanti, Michigan for a while, for 6 years, right near Ann Arbor. You know I'm an Ohio State guy. That's the home of Michigan, the big rivals. And so my daughter saw a lot of Michigan. And one day I was sitting around and she was just in the process of learning how to do her nails. And she said, Dad, can I do your nails? I mean, how many of you guys have had your daughter do your nails? And I said, this is weird. I've never had my nails done, but you know what, honey? Go ahead and do it. Do you know, fellas, the color she chose to do my nails was blue and yellow. Blue and yellow. And on one of them, she painted on a yellow nail a blue M. And I thought, what in the world? I think she thought it was really funny. But I just thought, man, that hurts my heart that my daughter just did that to me. But it was the greatest time. Only time I've ever painted my nails, and I will never forget it. Why? Because that was fun time. I don't know where the boys were. It was just dad and daughter having a great time. So we might have to talk about that next week. Call her out on why she chose blue and yellow to do her dad's nails in. But as we look at what we're going to do with our kids, we want to make sure that we do things that they like to do. And men, when you take your kids out to do things that they like to do, don't act like you're in anguish. Don't act like you're dying, like it's the worst thing that you could ever do in life. But spend that time and just soak it in, enjoy it, because I'm telling you, people make that statement, they're gone before you know it. And when your kids are young, you're like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I remember when my twins were born and they just laid on the ground. And I'm like, this is horrible, right? I mean, I want to play with my kids and they just lay there. And I'm like, I want them to be running around and I want to play. Okay, if you've had kids, what you know is this: the minute they become mobile, you can't stop watching where they're at. I mean, there were times when my kids would be crawling around in the living room and we had it all gated up, but you could go down the main hall to get to where their rooms were. And the next thing I know is the twins are gone. And I don't know where they've gone. I'm like, well, they can't get far. They can't drive the car. And they had gone down all the way down the hall and into their bedroom. And I was on dad alert. And I thought, oh my goodness, do not lose the kids, right? But then I thought, would they just lay there? I thought, once they got mobile, I'm like, would you just lay there? Would you stop moving around like that? And so what I know is time goes fast because now my kids are all out on their own. A matter of fact, my daughter just bought a home. And so now all of my kids own homes, and that's pretty cool. But there was a day when they just laid on the ground and did nothing. And that time's gone. So if you have young kids, listen, enjoy that time. Take advantage of that time and really soak it in. And part of that is giving them quality time where you are doing things that they like to do. I mean, that is so important. And so I want to translate that, men, because not only with your children is that important, but also with your wife, it's important. It's important to say, what would you like to do? Now, I know we get into that. Some of you have wives that you say, well, what would you want to do? And they go, I don't know. Where would you like to eat? I don't care. And then we have to make those decisions. And sometimes we're just like, listen, honey, just decide. Really, I'll eat anywhere, right? Come on, guys. You've been there before. You're like out on the street. There are times where I have pulled over. Matter of fact, I just did it this weekend. We had friends in, and I was like, I'm not sure where everybody wants to go. So I pulled into a parking lot. I pulled into a random parking lot, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to drive further until we decide where we're going to go. It didn't take us long to decide, but I just didn't want to drive around aimlessly, not knowing where I was going. And sometimes we'll ask our wife, well, where do you want to go? And we're trying to do what they want to do. And ladies, if you're listening to this, when we ask you where you want to go to eat, we really want to know where you want to go to eat, because we want to do that for you. So those are important things, to do what others want to do with our kids. I mean, listen, Chuck E. Cheese was not my favorite place to go have dinner, especially eat pizza. It's not like I go to Chuck E. Cheese and I'm like, man, that's some quality pizza, right? That's not where I'm going if I want some quality pizza. But my kids love Chuck E. Cheese. Now, I want to say this. Just because you go and do things like Chuck E. Cheese doesn't mean it has to be expensive. Doesn't mean you're spending your savings on the games that they have there. It was interesting. We would give the kids a certain amount of tokens. At one point it wasn't a quarter, and then it went back to a quarter where everything was a quarter, and that was much better. But what we found is that we would tell the kids, hey, you can play a couple games, but they have these cool things called tubes that you can climb through, and you can jump into the ball pit, and it's part of your getting pizza. You don't have to put a quarter in the machine. You just go up and play. And that was really cool because our kids did a great job of that. They would go play. They would come down and eat. They would go back and play a little bit. And that was a great opportunity, and it didn't cost a lot. When we would go on vacations, one of the things that we found is that we loved going to Gatlinburg. I grew up going to Gatlinburg. It was neat to take my kids down there to experience Gatlinburg. And what we would do is they would always be like, well, we want to go rafting down the water. And we really did not have the money to pay for the kids, for the whole family, to go rafting. What we would do is we would go to Walmart and we would buy, I think they were River Rat inner tubes. We would buy River Rat inner tubes, and they were good inner tubes. And we would stop at the side of the road at different locations. When we saw water, we'd be like, let's stop. We would get out. The inner tubes were already blown up in the back of the vehicle, the SUV. We would stop, we would put them out, and we would go down the stream. We had some good times. Sometimes we got out and it was not a good experience. The water was too low, too many rocks, whatever. But other times it was great. We've got some great memories from that. We've got some funny videos from that. But those were times that all it cost us was the cost of a little, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't rubber, but those little inflatable floaties, and we went down the water. Those were great opportunities, and we enjoyed that, and we used those for multiple years until finally they got punctures and things like that. But you don't have to spend a lot of money to have quality time doing fun things. There are a lot of things that you can do that don't cost money. Hiking was a fun thing that we did as a family. Those are great things that you can do, and just the adventure of that is really awesome. So what we want to do is we want to do the things that our kids would like to do, and we want to give our full time to that. And we want to be able to understand that it doesn't mean that we spend a lot of money. The amount of money that we spend does not determine how great the experience was. Now, there are some fun things that you can do that cost money. But you know, when I think back to it, if you like Disney, I mean, listen, I live down here in Florida near Disney. And if you like Disney, this is not dogging on Disney, so please don't take it that way. But Disney is expensive. I mean, even for us that live down here, we're like, man, Disney is expensive. And what you have to realize is this. My mom and dad took me to Disney. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a teacher. My mom stayed home. And we went to Disney, and I'm telling you this, I didn't know we didn't have a lot of money, except maybe when I maybe wanted certain shoes, I wasn't able to get those. But I really didn't know it because my mom and dad did a great job of just making life fun, and we did things, and not having money didn't hold us back. But I don't remember hardly anything about going to Disney. And I was in elementary school, so it's not like I was in this age bracket that I would not remember going to Disney. I remember doing a treasure hunt. I remember a few things here and there, but I don't remember a lot about Disney. I'm guessing that my kids, when we took them to Disney, don't remember tons about Disney, except for the fact that we took 8 billion pictures, right? I mean, when we were there at Disney, I was like, we're going to take as many pictures with Disney characters and the kids. And I'm telling you, there were multiple Goofies out there, multiple Donalds and Mickeys, space outfits and stuff. We were getting them all. And I was like, we are taking these pictures. It was good enough that they were young enough that they didn't realize, man, it was ludicrous. I was getting them all. And now we have pictures. But what do they remember? I remember one of the things they remember is that when we were in Space Mountain and it shut down and they had to turn all the lights on inside Space Mountain, it took away all the thrill of Space Mountain once you see what it looks like inside. It was just like, that's not so cool. It looked like the Mousetrap roller coaster at one of the fairs that you would go to or something. But you don't have to spend money to do those things, because often what I remember the most, more than Disney, is going to a campground in Gatlinburg and swinging across a creek on a vine and having that vine break, and my friend and I went tumbling down into the water. I remember another friend of mine, he and I went to this pond, we were fishing, and only to find out, evidently, it was a pay pond. And fortunately, I don't fish too much, so I caught 3 fish. I don't know how many my friend caught, but he caught a lot, and it was a trout pond. His dad had to drop some money on those trout because we had caught them. And that was funny. That was an expensive time for his family, not for me. I'm not a fisher. But those are memories that you remember all the time. So we want quality time. Whatever time we have with our kids, we want to make it quality. We want to be involved in the things that they want to do, and that doesn't mean that it has to be expensive. Now, I've got one more thing for you, and I think this might be, those are all important. The quality, doing what they want to do, doesn't mean it has to be expensive. Those are great. But this one can be a game changer in your time with your kids, men. And that's this. And I know that for you that can't watch and you're just listening, you won't see that I'm holding up my cell phone. The cell phone, it's amazing that a tool that brings us closer to people who are far away can make us distant to people who are close to us. My wife and I recently went out to a restaurant with some friends, and as I was sitting there, I look over at a few tables, and the booths hold 4 people, and there were 2 booths that had 4 people at each booth, and they were all on their phone. There was no interaction with each other. They were just on their phone, and you get that thumb flick that you watch people scrolling through like Facebook and that, and they're just scrolling through social media. And they get that thumb flick. There's no quality communication going on. No one's talking. And I am so grateful that in raising my kids, men, I never had to worry about that. We never had to tell the kids, don't have your phone at the table. Now, sometimes they would if they were waiting for a call, but it was never like it is today. Today, it's like the phone has become attached to our hand and we can't go anywhere without it. And I find myself sometimes just without purpose going through my phone and looking at things, whether social media feed or whatever. I find myself that way. And I remember going with a group of men on a golf outing, and this was pre-cell phone. We went away, and this is just when people were starting to get cell phones. And a family member of mine, we were talking, and I said, yeah, I've got to get a cell phone. I saw he had his. And he said, Sean, he goes, wait as long as you can. Don't do it. He goes, the minute you do that, you will never be able to get away from work. And he was right, because when you've got that cell phone, everyone has 24/7 access to you. Now, whether you answer it or not is another thing, but they have access to you. So when we have that cell phone, what we are doing, guys, is we are allowing our electronics, our social media to get in the way of that time with our children. And so here's what happens. When we fail to get rid of our phone, I mean, basically, guys, right? My first phone was a flip phone. And then I had a phone that I could actually send text on it. I had a BlackBerry, so I could send text, do emails, but you couldn't like surf the web. Now what you are buying when you buy a phone is what? You are buying a video camera, you are buying a camera, and you are buying a computer. And it's like you've got this all-in-one video camera. I guess nowadays all cameras take pictures and videos. So you're combining that with a computer that you can search the internet at any time. It's so funny when somebody will say, I think this. Well, we can fact check like instantly, right? Or if we have a question that we want to find out about an area that we're at, we can fact check quickly on that. But what happens is I see dads out with their kids and they're on their phone and they're searching the phone. We recently went out playing putt-putt, and it's interesting to watch the people playing putt-putt, and they've got their phones out. Now, listen, you can take pictures with that, but you can often tell what someone is doing with their phone, whether they're scrolling, whether they're typing, or whether they're taking video of something. You can pretty much tell that just by the posture that they do with their phone and how they hold it. So what we want to do, men, is we want to make sure not to bring that in to distract us, because what we do then is we can try to give quality time. We can try to do what they want to do, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but we destroy it all. The whole house of cards falls down when we can't get away from the phone. There are two things that I like to do. And the main reason I like to do them is because I don't get phone signal. So the first thing I love to do, and I never thought I would like it, the first time I went kicking and screaming, is go on a cruise. I think we've been on 3, but I love to go on a cruise. The first time, like I said, I went kicking and screaming. It was for my mom and dad's anniversary, and I wanted nothing to do with being on a massive ship with a bunch of people. And lo and behold, guys, it was amazing. If you've never been on a cruise, man, take that opportunity to go. It takes a long time to get on. It takes a long time to get off, but it is really fun. And most people were going crazy because they had no access. And so there are some people that buy internet package so they can get on their phone, do their social media. I didn't want any of that. And it was so nice. There was one stop that we had, and they were like, hey, this is the only place you're going to get cell service. So everybody had their phone, was standing in this area trying to check all their emails and things like that. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to see that stuff. So going on a cruise, that's the great thing about it. Your electronics, they're gone. You don't have them. You don't have access to them, and that's great. The second thing is this. Going backpacking. Now, One of the main reasons I go backpacking is because my son loves to go. One of my sons, he loves to go backpacking. He loves to go hiking. And I know there were years that he would say, "Hey dad, can we go?" And in my mind, I'm like, I really don't want to go. Because men, if you put me to it, and if you say, "Hey, you get to choose one." The first option is hiking in beautiful areas, sleeping in a tent on a thin mat that does nothing, and you feel all the ruts in the ground. And I know some of you guys are like, "Well, why do you sleep on ruts? There's a lot of ground." Sometimes you just can't find spots. But if you want to sleep on the ground, you wake up sore. Sometimes it rains and it leaks in your tent. It does. We've had it happen. And you give me that option compared to staying at a hotel with a hot tub. I'll tell you what, I'm taking the hotel every time, unless a son of mine or a daughter wants to go hiking. Then I'm on it. I mean, my one of my sons and I, we've been talking about going to the southern part of the Appalachian Trail. We've never been able to do that. Now that we've moved down to Florida, that's a possibility. And doing that, do I want to go hiking? Do I want to spend a week out on the trail? Not really. I like a shower. I like things like that. But do I want to go out and spend time like that with my son, just hiking and being a man and that challenge? Oh yeah, that's awesome. And so those are the times that I mean, when you're out on the trail, cell phone irrelevant. I used to bring mine, and I remember I was a little rebellious because on the first trip I took in my last church, the guy that led it had done the entire Appalachian Trail, and he was like, "Listen, no electronics." And so I snuck my phone in the backpack and I took it with me, and I didn't tell anybody. So I was illegal on that trip. Uh, but I just wanted to, when I was on the mountaintop, I wanted to have my phone so I could listen to my music. And I listened to Chris Tomlin's Indescribable. And in my car, compared to on a mountaintop, it's so different to listen to that song. And it was an amazing time. But the good thing is, I didn't get emails. There was no communication there. No phone calls could go out. And that was just a great time. And so, men, that's the challenge for you today is this. Give your kids quality time. It doesn't mean you have to give them all the quantity of your time, though that's okay. But give them quality time. And guys, quality time is not if you're coaching your kids in sports. You've got other kids that you've got to be taking care of there. Quality time is when you just spend time. And listen, if you have multiple kids, plan some special times, maybe once a month, where you just go with one kid and do it that one kid, because each kid is going to like their different things. But spend that quality time and do things that they want to do. And because you're going to do those things, remember this, it doesn't mean it's going to be expensive. You don't have to be expensive in what you do. Now, if you've got the money, if you've got the opportunity, you can do some different things. But just because you don't have a lot of money, and Lord knows in this day and age that we live in, money is tight. Find some things that you can do that those kids, listen, it never cost me money to go out and pitch wiffle ball to my sons. It may have cost me a thing of icy hot to put on my elbow once I was done, but it really didn't cost me money to go do that. It was time. And I'm going to tell you this, men, and I tell people this all the time, the most valuable thing that you can give someone is your time. But you also need to remember that the most valuable thing someone can give you is their time. And make sure to be appreciative for that. And then, men, get rid of the phone, get rid of the social media, get rid of the electronics, and spend some quality time with your kids doing the things that they love to do. And when the things they love to do overlaps with the things that you love to do, consider it a blessing. But that's an awesome thing when that happens. But just because it doesn't mean that there aren't great opportunities to do that. So, men, until next episode, thanks for being with us today as we have looked at the importance of spending that time with your kids, because before you know it, sorry to discourage you, but before you know it, they're going to be gone and they're going to be out of your house, and you will have missed those opportunities. And no one looks back and says to their parents, I wish we had more money. Usually what they wish is that they had more time with their dad, with their mom, rather than had more money. So guys, remember that, because it probably is true about when you look back at your past, you probably think the same thing. So men, it's that time. It's time to man up. Have a great day.